Well, hello everybody. It's been incredibly windy. We've had Storm Aisha ripping through here. So I've got out into the garden to just check that there's no damage really, and it all looks okay. I mean, last night when I went to bed, it was absolutely blowing a hooley. Really, really noisy. But actually it all looks pretty good. You can see here I've been doing a bit of clearing. I've cleared, there's quite a lot of those laurels, and I've created some openings here for the view. And people are asking about the orientation of the garden. Well, that is west. So I'll go into it a little bit more, in a bit more detail a bit later. But I also need to move this garden on. There's been a lot of talk. I appreciate that. I've had James and Anne-Marie here, and all they do is talk, let's face it. But this spring I really need to get cracking on it, and I do have a plan. I've booked in some tree surgeons to help me. There's a big western red cedar here with a lot of sort of scrubby growth beneath, and then there's also this overgrown hedge. You see, it was a hedge once behind me, and it's been, well, it's been mullered, it's been cut back, it's been let to regrow, it's been hacked here and there, and I'm going to open it all out. And for that I need some help, because that big western red cedar's got a 70 centimetre girth at the bottom, and I need someone, who really knows what they're doing to come and do it. So I've got these tree surgeons. There are 3 of them, so I'm calling them the tree fellas. Do you get it? The tree fellas? And they're coming at the beginning of February. They're booked in for the beginning of February, and they're also going to plank that big tree, the trunk of it, on site. They're bringing a planking machine, which I'm really excited about, so that I can turn it into a table. I need to season it for about a year, which means just let it dry, and then I'm going to make it into a table and maybe some other pieces of furniture for the interior, basic stuff, basic carpentry, bush carpentry as I call it. This privet hedge behind me I'm going to take out. I might leave some sections through it. Anyway, so I've got the guys coming in February, and then in March, April I'm hoping to get a couple of our landscapers. They're working on a big project not too far from here at the moment, but I'd like to try to get them to come and do some of the hard landscaping in the garden. Otherwise it will literally take me a couple of years because I'm working. This is coming up to a busy time of year for me, so I can't just do my own garden, sadly, because I'd really love to just be out here day in, day out doing it, but I've got to keep bringing the cash in. And things I can get on with are like pruning this big sweet bay, which has got a bit out of control. There's a holly here as well. I can do a little bit of pruning on that, so I can get stuck in. There's plenty to be getting on with, but once you start lifting up the paving, you can't just leave a big mess, and one thing always leads on to another. I want to put some drainage in as well, so once I've lifted up this paving, I've got to get the paving back down again, otherwise we're left with a load of sort of sub-base and mud and stuff underneath, and if it rains it's going to turn into a bit of a quagmire. So I am getting a plan, and then next autumn, I've missed the root ball season for any root ball or bare rooted plants this year. Well, I haven't missed it yet, but I know that I will. Some multi-stem trees, and some bare rooted roses and dogwoods and things like that. So I'm going to aim for next autumn, next winter, to be putting them into the ground. In the autumn, along with a load of more spring bulbs. I'll know what spring bulbs I've got here by then. There's a sort of short, medium and long-term plan going on here. But this spring, when the weather's dry, I really want to crack on with getting the structure, the shape of this garden in place. But there's some things I can do with the odd little window. A weekend is just taking things like this much loved archway out, or much laughed at archway out, I should say. But one other thing I want to do is just get to know the soil in this garden a little bit better. I need to know, the pH of the soil, the makeup of the soil. So when I start planning the plants that I'm buying, I make sure I get the right ones. So I'm going to do a soil test in a minute. Just before I do that, people have been asking about the orientation of the garden. Now, the house is that way. This is pretty much east facing. So the house faces south-southwest, south-southwest, and there you can see the sun setting west. It's just going down on the west-hand side. So I get plenty of sun throughout the day. And yeah, there are trees on site. People are asking, well, you got trees, you must have so much shade, but it's much welcome shade. But believe me, there's plenty of sun, or more sun than there is shade. So in the summer, we're gonna have really long days out here. It's gonna be absolutely gorgeous. But first of all, let's remember that soil test. Okay, well, I nipped inside the house for a few minutes to get some bits and pieces. And okay, I had a quick cup of tea. Came out and the weather's changed again. This could be the end of Storm Isha, the tail end, or maybe it's the next storm coming in. And because they go from female to male names, and through the alphabet, the next one will be a J. It could be Storm Joe. Could be. I think it's actually the end of Storm Isha. Anyway, I'm going to do this quite quickly and then get undercover because it's just about to chuck it down. So I've got one of these, which is an electronic pH tester, and it also tells you the temperature, which is useful for knowing when the soil's warming up. I usually use my finger though. And you can just get litmus tests. You can get really cheap tests. This isn't expensive at all, and I keep it in the car for the jobs that I'm visiting, so it's pretty handy. And it's literally just a case of sticking it in the ground, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick it in the ground about up to there. So if there's any mulch at the top, I'm getting past that down into a proper reading of the soil. So here we go. This could be interesting, actually. Okay. It's coming down to 6 point. Always plays around a little bit at the beginning. Settled on 6.2 there. Now 7 is neutral. Anything below that is moving into alkaline. Between 6 and 7 is pretty neutral, really. Below 6 to 5 is slightly acidic, and below 5 gets more and more acidic. I'm going to do lots of tests around the garden as well, because you can't just do one single test. The beds might be different. They might have had organic matter added over the years. But it'd be good to get a sort of rough idea. But I'm thinking it'll be neutral to slightly acidic in areas, which makes sense from the plants that are being grown here. But now I'm going to grab a lump of soil and get under cover. Well, here we are in the greenhouse. Controlled environment, I think they call it in TV land. It's great. Out of the wind, out of the rain, and it's much quieter in here. Well, it would be without me. So I've got a bit of soil in my hands and I'm naturally rolling it to find out about its consistency, what it's made up of. And well, you can see pretty obviously it's clay based, and when you squeeze it, it still holds together in its form, whereas if it was loamy, it would turn into a nice ball like that, but when you squeeze it, it will crumble. And also I get a little bit between my finger and my thumb, like that, and just play around with it, just rub it together, and you can feel that it's very smooth to the touch. So it's made up of tiny little particles that bind together. If it was gritty or gravelly, it'd feel much more coarse to the touch. And those soils behave in very different ways. And some people might be thinking, oh no, poor Joe, he's got a clay soil. Well, I'm used to it. London clay is famous, and I've gardened on London clay all my life. And there's a lot of positives with clay. One is it's very fertile. You can turn it into a very good moisture retentive fertile soil. So that's a good start. And sure, it can be hard work in areas digging it over. And it warms up slowly in spring, and it can dry out and crack in the summer. And yes, it can get waterlogged in the winter. But there's a huge range of plants I'll be able to grow in this garden, and that's the key for me. And yeah, it's a certain amount of work, but I'll be bringing in organic matter anyway, which will help with drainage, help with fertility, help with moisture retention to improve the soil in certain areas, and other areas I'm just going to have to go plant into the soil with the larger shrubs and the trees, and they'll just take, and I'll make sure that I plant accordingly. So, if you want to grow really acidic plants and you've only got alkaline soils, my advice is don't even try. Don't try and change the basic underlying structure and makeup of your soil. If you want to grow those sort of plants, buy a large container, get ericaceous compost. You can get organic ericaceous compost, and you can grow acid-loving plants in your alkaline garden, and vice versa as well. But you've just got to go with it, and that's what this is all about. It's getting to know my soil a little bit better so that I can go with it, so that I can have more successes than failures. Now it's time for some action.